Hey y'all, so today I am going to be talking about how I went from being an English major undergrad to now pursuing student affairs as a hopeful grad student. So let's get started. Okay, so here's a little background about why I was an English major as an undergrad. So I went to the University of Southern Mississippi and I absolutely loved it, and I thought I was going to be a teacher. So for the first 2.5 years of my college career, I was a teacher major. So I had English with licensure. As I grew and sort of started to find my interest in my home, I started to realize like maybe English is something that I could go into, like literary criticism, literary studies. And I was really dead set on it because I really didn't like my practicum. It was just, I could tell that education wasn't going to be for me. So I made the decision in my first semester of my junior year to change my major. Saying that out loud is really crazy. And so I focused instead on my honors thesis, which I'll link below if y'all want to read it. It's really cool. And then I started realizing kind of midway through that maybe English wasn't it either. Maybe literary criticism, like I wasn't meant to do that either. So all of these things started happening, and I started realizing like, oh, I really don't know what to do, like what, which leads me to the next question, which is, the next question is, why are you applying to programs in student affairs? So I had this most transformative experience of my life when I went and I had the opportunity to serve as a Golden Eagle Welcome Week leader, and I got my first taste of like higher ed and how absolutely fantastic higher ed is, just as like how a university runs is just so interesting to me. So I started feeling this, I hate to use the phrase calling, but I started really to feel this calling towards higher ed for some odd reason. And I was just like, maybe this is what I'm meant to be. And I looked out at my students, I'll never forget it, and they were just sitting in a row at GU, and then I was like, I could do this for a living. And the person over GU, who is now one of my biggest mentors, biggest support system, love her to death, Kayla Mitchell, if you're watching this, you are probably my biggest inspiration for higher ed. Anyway, she was just like, Emily, you could do this for a living. And I was just like, oh my God. So I started having these feelings towards higher ed, and I was like, I think this is wrong because this can't be right. Like, I'm meant to do literary stuff, and I'm meant to study Keats, or I'm meant to study Wordsworth. And then I guess my senior year, first semester, I would make excuses to not do my thesis or to not do a paper because I was too concerned with how I was going to A, help someone else, or B, kind of be out and be involved. So that was honestly like on my part. But I started to think, and I was like, maybe I am a people person. And a couple of weeks ago, I actually got this sort of confirmation from one of my biggest mentors, again, and she was just like, Emily, you're not in love with the literature, you're in love with the people. So I use Coleridge as an example, and I really wasn't in love with Rime of the Ancient Mariner, but I loved his stories, and I loved John Keats' stories. And so I found myself attracted to people and how I can help people. Ultimately, my goal is to obtain a PhD in higher education with an emphasis in student affairs because I want to change the mental health epidemic that we have on college campuses across the United States. I want to change the way that faculty talk to students when they're going through a mental health crisis. I just think like it's super important, and I think that faculty are the bridge between the student and the university, and I think raising awareness of like, okay, some universities don't have protocol. My university doesn't have a protocol for that. And I think that that would be a really cool thing to research. So in short, my student affairs journey involved a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of self-reflection on my part. But I'm really excited. That's it for this video, but I hope you follow me along on this grad school journey as I apply, as I get accepted. I'm going to film, hopefully I get accepted, and my acceptance reactions and all that cool stuff. So I'm really excited, and I'm excited to take y'all along with me on this journey. Thanks! Subscribe!